Welcome to A More Brilliant Life. We share inspiring stories from people who hit rock bottom, faced their challenges, and transformed their lives. Learn how you can rise above expectations, discover who you are, and reclaim your future.
I love that they value so vehemently the balance that human beings need in life. That at lunchtime, we leave our offices and we go off and we have lunch, or we go home and we take a nap. And the point is not about the food. The point is about the people you're eating with. But it's the fact that you exist outside of your work. Work doesn't come with you. Work is just something you do that helps you to live. But life is much bigger than that.
All right. Welcome, Yolanda Reshemah, to A More Brilliant Life podcast. This is the podcast where we talk through people's life's twists and turns and pivots and relocations and career changes and all of those things. So it's so lovely to have you here today, Yolanda. I know you have a long story to tell. Why don't we just start out with an introduction and let's get things rolling.
Absolutely. And Jake, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm honored to be here. Just a really quick note. I'm just feeling a little bit sniffly for some reason today, but everything else is fine. So a little about myself. My name is Yolanda, and as you can hear from the accent, I'm living in California now, but as you can hear from the accent, I'm a bit of a Brit. I'm a Brit bird who's living here in the US, having far too much fun, enjoying it, and just learning from the whole experience of having relocated about 6 times in my life on purpose at various phases, major phases of my life. And a little bit more about me. I hail from a family that always valued travel and discovering new locations. And basically, I think it was always about what can I do? Who can I be in this new place? What can I achieve? What will I discover about the environment as well as about myself if I travel abroad? And so my mom, my dad, and my older brothers, they're all traveling to different places, different islands. And I saw that. And people around me did that naturally. And when I'm talking about there, I'm talking about my country of origin, which is the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's where I was born and raised and shaped and formed and got my identity of who I am, and this belief that I could live anywhere as long as I'm safe and as long as I can feel like I belong, I can do that.
And so how long did you live in the Caribbean?
I was born there and I lived there until I was 10. And so my first experience of relocating abroad started at the age of 10.
From
there,
Go ahead. From the Caribbean to where?
from the Caribbean to
Caribbean.
England.
All right.
I say Caribbean because we're Caribs, the original tribe
All right.
is known as the Carib. So my tribe, my people, that's the Carib beings. But it's okay. I know what you mean when you say Caribbean.
I am from the Midwest in Minnesota, an area about as landlocked as you can get. We are about as far from an ocean or from even tropical weather as you can come. That's where I grew up in Minnesota. Actually, on a very rural farm, very small town, and from there, I really just I learned the value of travel. I learned the value of learning about other people's cultures, about living abroad and things like that too, and have taken my life in that direction for sure.
Brilliant. And how rewarding is that? Isn't it extraordinary? Because we really, when they say that adage that travel broadens the mind, they were not lying. It really does. It alters you. It changes who you are because you get a perspective of your life that you wouldn't otherwise.
100%.
because of the people you interact with and how you're having to rely on aspects of your personality that you just didn't know existed, that was not alive and functioning so well.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the hardest things to get across to people is just how small your bubble can actually be, and you can't really pierce that bubble until you get out of that bubble, if that makes sense.
Mm,
And so,
yes.
like, it's hard. You know, I grew up in an area where people don't leave. Like they spend their entire lives in the same small town, and you can just see it within them. There's like you know, they may be the king of that small town, but like the reality is like they don't know what's going on outside in the rest of the world. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I find that extraordinary.
Uh-huh.
Um, that takes, to me, that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to move as well, to pick up everything that you own, give away the rest, and say, I'm going to move abroad, whether it's 6 months, a year, 10 years. That takes a lot of courage. But to me, it also takes a lot more courage to just stay put and to make that small place your whole world. Because the world is so vast, it's so varied, it's so diverse in every possible way. It's fascinating. And to think that you will live and die, this is from my perspective and my opinion, to be okay with just living and dying with just that tiny pod is scary to me. But hats off to the people who choose to do it. That's okay. I've got to travel far and wide and very often.
And so your parents, what did they do for a living especially when they were in the Caribbean, and what why did they choose to move to the northern UK or England? Is that what you said?
Well, first of all, they moved to Canada for quite a while, and then the US. I'm sure I'm missing other places, and then England. But in between all of those places, like my dad in particular and his brothers would go to different Caribbean islands and work. My dad and his brothers had this workshop, and they built boats, like yachts and all sorts. So a lot of my early memories was spending my summer holidays with this handheld plane with a block of wood, just being so terribly happy, just with this tiny block of wood going eek, 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 with the little shavings of wood just back and forth. And my mom was a medic. She worked as a nurse, and she was also a seamstress. So she would make like bedding and clothing. She made all our clothes. She made clothes for my dad and his brothers and people in the neighborhood. So that was like her side gig. And so I've always known an environment where people are fully employed, because that's just how it works, right? And you have a profession, you're fully employed, you save, you take your money, and you go and discover the world. And that's what they did. That's what I know. So to some degree, I think I'm still following that. Myself and my husband, we we travel quite a lot. It's a privilege and an honor, I guess. So yeah.
Hmm. How long have you lived where you are right now in California?
In
You're
the
living.
US, gosh, I would say myself and my husband, we've been here, our daughter's 12 now, so we've been here about 13 and a half years. But to be perfectly honest, it really doesn't feel like we've been here that long because we keep moving. We do have our home here, we've built a life, we have stability here, we have a community of friends. So there is a deep sense of belonging and having home away from home. This is our home here for this small part of the family. But I mean, for example, we've been back here in the US for about 5 months because prior to that, we spent a year in England, because our parents are so much older and our daughter has her cousins, other family members who are so very much like her. And we needed to be near his parents across Europe. and mine in England. So we decided, we're just going to move for a year, at least a year. And now we're back 5 months and it feels very odd. And so we're going through this process of acculturation again, even though we had lived here for such a long time.
Hmm. Do you remember that first move then when you were still living with your parents and what that was like? You remember much
Do you
of
mean
that?
the first move from the Caribbean to
Yeah.
England? Oh, yes, I remember it very well. I cried for 3 years. I was miserable. I remember it. I remember getting on the plane. I remember the small plane from St. Vincent to Barbados, connection flight. And I remember the BA flight from Barbados to England. I remember the excitement. Because we traveled at night as well. I remember it being cold on the airplane, and no matter how many blankets they threw over us, we just couldn't warm up because we had never really felt cold like that. And landing in England and Heathrow Airport, so many people just rushing, rushing, rushing. I had never experienced people walking so fast.
Mm.
Um, we got outside and it was grey. And I had just left, myself and my sister traveled together. We had just left this island of white sand and black sand and turquoise beaches and just color, vibrancy, and the sound of people singing and the neighbors in the houses, and everybody has their own individual house and their plot of land, and you paint it whatever color you want. You design your house in a way that reflects how you live and how you see life. And I arrived in England, and as the coach was taking us up through where we lived, we encountered rows of houses, all brown and blocked and stuck to each other, terrace houses. And it was like, what's this? Why is it? Why are all the houses the same color? And there was just very little nature at that particular spot, and there was just no sun. It was great. And the houses all had chimneys. I couldn't understand. I knew there were chimneys, but why does every house need to have a chimney? And why is there smoke? And why is the smoke gray? And everything just looked gray. And I was just fascinated, but not necessarily in a positive way. My immediate impression was just very sort of, where is the color and the vibrancy and the energy of the people? The other thing that really, that was a culture shock.
Yeah.
The other culture shock I encountered at that point in time in England, the whole punk scene was really popular. And there were all these men and women with black eyeliners and piercings all over and black lipstick and just a very severe looking, the not the very conservative and light and breezy imagery that a life I had just left. And for a 10-year-old just being thrown into that, the assault on the sensory was just so much. I definitely experienced culture shock. I didn't know what to do with myself.
What decade was this? Was the 90s or the 2000s?
Yes.
Which one? The
Oh,
90s?
late 80s, 90s.
Okay, okay. And so like it just felt like you were being thrust into chaos. Is that I mean, is that a fair way to characterize it, or like
Yeah,
okay.
absolute mayhem. I think I couldn't feel people. I couldn't feel the energy, the vibe. I couldn't feel that sense of, we may not have everything, but life is good. We're happy. I felt, and I just saw people just so busy, rushing, rushing. And there was no interaction or very little interaction between the people in front of me. There wasn't this sign of respect of saying hi to
Mhm.
total strangers because you walk past them. good morning, good morning. People was just zoom, 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 zoom. And I was just like, whiplash. What
Yeah.
is this? Why are they doing that?
You know, what's funny is I've experienced that culture shock in a reverse way because I came from Minnesota or the Twin Cities area, or, an area where it's exactly that. You're these people are just busy and like looking at their phones or whatever. And then we moved to Costa Rica now. We've been here about a year and a half. And I'm so accustomed to just, everybody acknowledges each other's presence. Like they say hello,
Yes,
they say good morning, they say good afternoon. Like if you come within a few feet of somebody, it's rare that they just keep their eyes down and don't acknowledge your presence. And actually, a few weeks ago, I was walking on the path, and we have this little walking path in our condominium, and somebody did just that. Like they just kind of kept their eyes down. I was like, what? Who is that? And here I had found out that this is somebody who had just come from the States, like a week or a week and a half. They'd only been there, and like I was like, oh, okay. But like she looked like she could have been Costa Rican, so it really threw me off. But it was an experience of like just how accustomed I am to it now, like a reverse culture shock now.
yeah.
When you
So
see,
it sounds like you've adjusted so very quickly.
yeah, I think so. And my wife and I had been introduced to Central America at a younger age when we were in our 20s, and then we went back to the States, and then we came back to Central America, to Costa Rica, and so it was kind of like relearning a lot of the daily norms and cultures of Central America. But Costa Rica has its own vibe in all of Central America. It's really an anomaly. It's just such a cool country. It's so unique, and they just have had such a different history, different path from all the other countries in the area. So okay, so you went to London. How much time did you spend in northern England? I'm sorry, northern England.
Um, well, to be honest, the area of England where my family still to this day lives, it's called Hertfordshire, and it's just on the outskirts of London. So it's kind of like in the middle, south. It's southeast, and I spent all of my life growing up there from the age of 10,
Okay.
and so when I go back to see the family, primarily that's the location that I go back to, but as well as the Caribbean. But a lot of the family are now in England
But
and travel back and forth.
you mentioned it took about 3 years really before you felt like adjusted and acclimated, and I mean, how tell me about that period of struggle.
My goodness, I think, yeah, I just kept crying because I missed everything. I missed the food. I missed my friends. I I think I had told myself a story, but I didn't have the language around any of this. I didn't know that there would be a period of homesickness. I didn't know that culture shock existed. I didn't know that I would feel a sense of isolation and a differentness
How did
about
your
me.
how did your parents react to the move? I mean, and then on top of that, how did they try to help you acclimate?
Well, that was interesting. I think really for us, the help really came in the form of having immediate family members around us because myself and my sister, as I said before, we moved together. So she was going through the same thing. And so for my folks now, they were just so busy trying to create a life for us that was good and trying to find foods that we like at that point in England. That was just not possible. They tore their hair out because we wouldn't eat anything. We didn't like any of it. It just didn't taste good. And so it was very difficult for them. It was frustrating for them, but they tried their best. But we had each other. And that's where I found comfort. And that's how we were able to, we just bonded together in what we have in common. The essence and the feel and the sound and the memories of home, we carry that with us. So though we literally physically left all of that. There's so much of that that we carry in our bodies, in our memories. That is just an intrinsic part of who we are. And so that helped to maintain that sense of togetherness, but also through blood, right? And so for myself and my sister, we would just talk about the things that we miss. We would talk about the things that we don't like here. We would talk about the people that we've met or that we're meeting and what we liked and how we could adjust. You know, but for me at the age of 10, I really didn't have the language really for any of that in a meaningful way. So I was just listening and following and trying my best to just fit in at school and then realizing, well, actually, I don't fit in. And then that's okay. I fit in with my family. I know who I am, and that's okay. There was a lot of toughing it out. But I think toughing it out was possible because I had the closest people around me who knew me so well and who could take care of me
So
and who protected me.
do you think it really brought your immediate family much, much closer? I mean, obviously, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. Um, but that's the interesting thing. We're a very, very close family because that's just how the community works. When I was growing up in St. Vincent, when my parents traveled, the grandparents looked after us and the aunts, and we would go back and forth beyond their houses, well, to their houses and spend time with our cousins, during the summer and with our friends. It was really a very big family, was made up of blood relatives, but the community around us, the other people who acted like aunts and overseers and guiders. And if we misbehaved, they'd get on the phone and phone the folks abroad, and then you'd still be in trouble. So yeah, we that closeness and community is very, very protective.
What?
And I think that's what we try to recreate when we go abroad. Like myself and my husband now and my daughter here living in the US, we don't have that family bonding. We're it. But then there's the job to be done of recreating. I'm sorry about the pounding noise, but there's this job to be done of recreating the family in your new home away from home. And I've had to learn from all of these moves that I've done on purpose. You have to build that. You don't move abroad and jump into an already established community of people. Sometimes that happens. But to feed your soul, and this is what I really want I say expat women are all expats to know, to really feed your soul, you have to understand what is good for you, what works for you, what is it that I need, who are the type of characters, the people, how do I want to interact with them, how do I want them to interact with me. For me personally, transparency is so important. I want to have deep conversations with people. So I have to build that community of people. I have to throw my net far and wide to find the characters, and they don't always turn out looking the way that I would assume. So therefore, I've learned, stop assuming of who your friends and your connections and your new family community will be wherever you go. First, look for the heart, find what you need, and then search for that in other people and ensure that you can make that work both ways. It's got to be reciprocal. So that's what I had in my immediate family. And then that's what we were able to build through the people we met in England. And that's what I've learned, and I've carried that too with me. And I have to use that to help my daughter now that we've returned to the US. And she's saying, I want to go back to England. All my people are there. It's like, well, we've got to make our people here too. How can we do that? That's
So,
not easy.
in your experience of all the different moves that you've done, like how long does it usually take before you can really kind of look at yourself and say, okay, this feels like home now. I've built my community. Um, I really feel like I belong here. How long does that typically take?
So it varies. It depends on the culture of the people. It depends on the culture within the culture. And I say that because all of the US is not the same. I live in California. California is very different to everywhere else in the US. And I'm in the Bay Area in California, which in itself is different to the rest of California. And so it just depends on the people around you. And this is why it's so important to have a really good idea and understanding of the culture of the town you're moving to. For me here, it took a few years because I had to understand there's this thing called flakiness here in the US, in California. In England, where I live, if I take the train to work every morning, Monday to Friday, and I sit in a particular carriage on that train, it's likely that I may see the same characters over and over. And it's likely that we will start up conversations. And after 2 years, it's likely that we will have at some point, had sat next to each other, talk about the books we're reading, talk about the movies, talk about the shows we might want to go and see, and then decide, you know what, let's go out for a drink. So making friends, from my experience in the UK, it's very organic. And for me, it's very easy. For us, it's very easy to just exchange numbers and say, yes, let's meet up in a week's time and go and do this. And that will actually happen.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we won't exchange numbers. In the US, I learned very quickly on arrival that people really intentionally want to be a friend, and they're just fascinated by your accent, or they're fascinated about your life journey. And at that moment in time, they want to get to know you. But then they go off and the life gets busy and they meet up with their other friends and then they forget you. That's called flaky
Okay.
or flakiness. So that's pretty common. The expats I meet who live around here, they say, yes, we recognize that it happened to me. I didn't know what to do with that. You could end up taking it personally and feel like there's something wrong with me. Why aren't these people calling me back? But it's not you, it's just the culture of where you are. You've got to expect that at that moment in time, they meant it and they really wanted to do it. But then they went off.
Hmm. Yeah, Costa Rica has something similar in that, like, people are just so, they just want, they're people pleasers down here. They want to tell you the right thing. They want to say yes. They really want you to be happy, and or they want to make you happy. So like, we
Yeah.
found that, like, if you, sometimes people, or this is very common, where people say yes, but like behind their eyes they're actually saying no, and you have to learn to like read through that. And
Ah,
and and so, like, if it's not like an absolute, I don't know, like all out yes, absolutely, um and if it's more kind of like a hesitant, like, yeah, okay, like that actually means no. They'll never say no, but
okay.
they will say yes when they mean no. And so that
Oh,
this,
right.
uh-huh,
I see. So
this
you
is
have to read behind
exactly.
the,
And
the,
their,
the cues.
yeah, their body language, their tone of voice, those types of things. Yeah. um,
But it's interesting because that's not every American. And um, as I said, I have made friends here, but I think quite a few of them are expats as well themselves. But I do have American friends, and they are continually teaching me about why it can feel so difficult for us to make meaningful, authentic connections here because the age group makes a difference as well. Americans, they live here, they've grown up here, they have their school friends. And unless they are people who have also moved from Minnesota or wherever to your spot here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area,
mhm,
then you are likely to be among people who have already formed their groups of friendships, who have already become part of a community, and then trying to break into that when you are yourself, you're so different. Your culture's different, your expressions is different, your expressions are different, your just your whole way of dressing is different, how you use the language is different. My American friends have told me, well, there is this thing here called what was the term she used, danger, because they will enjoy the accent and the difference to a certain degree, but to get any closer takes time. And for me, it took about 3 years here to really start making decent connections. And stranger danger just allows the people here to think and to assess first, well, how could I be hurt? What change will he bring to my life? Will it be beneficial, or could it potentially be harmful? And that whole storytelling, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's just normal here. That's part of the culture. Now I'm aware of that. If that is how it works, then I can go, okay, it's not personal. That's okay.
So, what advice do you have for people arriving today to kind of cut through that timeline, or is that not even possible? Does it just kind of have to transpire slowly and progress slowly, or is there anything that people can do to kind of skip some months or years?
Well, I want to answer that question, but I think there's some work that needs to be done beforehand, and it's part of why I'm doing the chats and the podcasts and the conversations that I'm having as well,
Hmm.
because you need to really do some groundwork and understand the type of life that you want to move and create when you're there. So, for example, if you move to LA and you're somebody who's very sociable and you love to go out after work and have drinks and cocktails and dinners, that's going to be pretty difficult in LA because of the traffic situation. After work, most people want to get in their cars and zoom home because they don't want to be stuck in traffic, and there isn't a lot of public transport. If you move to New York and you're that person who likes to go out after work, it's going to be very easy. New York is somewhat smaller, cabs and public transport, and the lifestyle and the mindset is very different there. You've got to understand what it is that you're looking for, what it is you're trying to build, and see where you can find that. Because that determines how happy you're going to be or miserable. And then when you move into that environment, and it takes a while to know people. You've also got to do the work and find out, what is it that I need to feed my soul? What sort of friendships do I need to have? Um, am I okay with just having a bunch of acquaintances who I can go out with and lunch with, and can I make do with the people I meet at work, or do I want to build a community? Am I trying to create a home away from home? Do I want people in my life who will phone me, who will come and knock on my door if they don't see me for 2 weeks? Because
Hmm.
they'll miss me. They'll notice my presence is missing. They'll notice they haven't heard my voice. What am I trying to do here in this life that I'm trying to build? And if you've got family, how does that impact your kids? Because they need to have connections. There's this whole thing that we go through of feeling isolated, the loneliness, the homesickness, missing home. Do I need to have an environment where I can maybe pick up a few things that remind me of home, that taste of home?
Hmm.
Do I need to be in a rural setting where, I don't know if this is a thing in the US, but do I need to be somewhere quite rural because I love the countryside? But then again, the vibrancy is not there. The diversity in foods and music or internet connection, so I can phone home and
Hmm.
I can have frequent conversations with my people back at home, because that brings me joy and it gives me comfort for those moments when I might feel low, and that actually does happen. We've got to expect those. So, building this whole life, building the connection, building the friends, understanding yourself takes time because we go through it by trial and error. And also, the whole process of building friendship takes time. We move from mild acquaintances into friendly acquaintances, into casual friendships, into deeper friendships where you feel that you have met each other enough and you have built a decent enough level of trust where you can start talking about the things that you're afraid of, the things that you've done in life that you're proud of, where you can start opening up yourself, and you can start being vulnerable with somebody, because that's at the point where deep connections are made. But you need somebody who is going to do the very same with you.
Hmm.
So it takes time.
What
Can you
what
cut
sh-
through it? It
yeah,
depends on the people.
okay. It depends on the person, like the person in that situation. So, do you have any advice for somebody, like what should you do when you're feeling low or alone or isolated? What should you do in that moment?
Wow, my goodness. I always say, do not stay in the house,
Mm,
your apartment alone. First thing I love to do, and I remember, there's quite a few things you can do. Go out in nature, because I have come to learn in the last 3 years when I moved to England with my husband and my daughter. Loved it. Fantastic. I used to live there. I know everything about it. But it's changed. The people I know there, their lives have moved on and changed. And they're so much busier. They couldn't give me the time that we had, the time that I needed. But I discovered that it's good for me whenever I felt lonely, then to go out and take long walks among the trees. There's something about being in nature that is really soothing and comforting. I can have conversations with myself. I can shout a little, cry a little, all that sort of stuff. Go for a drive. Go, if you're somebody who loves being on the beach, hire a car if you're able to. Go for a nice drive. Go and spend some time on the beach, walking bare feet in the sand. That's also really comforting. Whatever you do, take care of yourself. Create little rituals. Find a coffee shop, find a little area, maybe a bench in a park. Make sure it's safe, please. And, go there with your cups of coffee and just watch as the world go past. Say hello to people. But I always loved the idea of finding a little coffee shop or a little restaurant where you can maybe sit for a period of time and do that repeatedly, so that the people who work there, who live in that environment, start seeing you over and over and can become curious about who you are. So therefore you can start building conversations with them. They can get to know you, ask you questions about your life. Who are you? Where are you from? That's how you start building connections. And you can start asking them about themselves and finding out where the local spots are and all that sort of stuff. But also find things that intrigue you about your new environment. Maybe at least one time every week, or maybe every 2 weeks. Just try and cook maybe something from your new home away from home that helps you understand what that tastes like. It's so that you don't have to keep longing for what you've missed, longing for cheeseburgers back home, longing for fish and chips in England or that sort of stuff, because I was missing fish and chips a lot. But try and find the things in your new environment that you can cling on to, that you can love. Find a museum that you can go to. There are often free museums. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do that's free of charge, stuff you can pay for as well. But I always say also, cast your net far and wide. Try and find libraries. Libraries often have free events. Find a book club. Find an open mic night and check out the people who are being vulnerable, getting up on stage. Get up on stage yourself, practice your language. Definitely get rid of all of the shoulds. I should be this by now. I should be in a better job by now. I should have five really good girlfriends by now. And all of these shoulds are just going to mess you up and you're going to beat yourself over the head.
Sure.
Don't do that. There isn't any should this and that. As long as you are safe, as long as you have a roof over your head, as long as you have a way of being able to pay the bills, and that might mean taking two or three different jobs. It limits you in some ways, it limits your social life, but it also opens opportunities to connect with people in those two or three different environments. And those are some of the examples.
Yeah, no, I
There's a
love
lot
it.
more.
It's spot on. The advice is incredible, and I love it. So, what can a parent do, like to help their kids, like encourage their kids to do those same things, to get out and say your kid is the you've relocated and your child is just all that wants to do is kind of hole up in their bedroom, right? Like that type of scenario. How can a parent help that?
Yes, I have I think I'm myself and my husband, we're just beginning to come out of that situation with
Hmm.
our child as well, because as I said before, she was born here in the US. We had so many trips back and forth across Europe to see the family. But after we moved there and we lived there for a while and she was at school there, she just she acculturated so very quickly, very easily, and that was very surprising.
What age was this? Sorry, how old was she?
12,
12 years old. Okay,
12
wow,
years old.
that's very yeah.
Yeah, we were surprised. Her friends are reflections of the real world, different cultures, different foods, just different environment. And she loves life in London. And since we've been back, it's been very, very difficult. I don't want to be here. I want to go back to my school. So we've put her in a new school here, obviously. And I don't like the people here. They're just this, they're just that. So there's this whole thing that was going on. And it's a mind mess because it is a mind mess for them. Their emotions, her emotions, and her confidence and self belief and everything is wrapped up in that. So, for when you're dealing with kids, it's literally about sitting, talking, understanding what's going on, acknowledging what's going on for her.
Mm,
What worked really well is making sure she's still connected to her friends over there, that she developed kind of like a ritual as well, texting them Saturday mornings, having video calls, sending each other messages and still keeping that connection because it fills her soul. And just breaking that away so suddenly is pretty rough. For a
mhm,
12-year-old, it's probably a little bit too much. And but that's our environment. And just but starting her in the process of getting involved in dance classes here, going back to martial arts or taking up boxing, doing cross country, getting involved in activities after school.
mhm.
And that's how we've been able to just keep her going. But it takes a while because most of the time they don't want to do it. They say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there. Myself and myself and my husband, we've just said, you're going to have to do it. You need to meet people.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe now it's about 3, 4 months now, going to tumbling and gymnastics. She's beginning to see, there are nice people here too that I can connect with. Um, okay, she doesn't like connecting with the people in her class, but the eighth graders. Oh, right, there's some nice people there as well. It's just being able to change their perspective.
Mhm.
And it's constant talking and reassurance, but definitely getting them out of the house, definitely getting them involved in soccer in the park whenever that happens, you know, just definitely going for walks, getting on the bike, going for bike rides, challenging herself. And that's what we're doing. That's the first time I've had to deal with this. I thought I would have to do it once we arrived in England. But no, it's
Yeah.
coming back to the US.
Hmm. So give me kind of the arc of all the hops. I mean, or all the relocations, all the new places that you've lived. So you said you've relocated 6 times in your life?
Yes, so I moved at age 10 from St. Vincent to England. And as a student from England to France, I was there for quite a while. Then I moved back from France to England. That's where I encountered for the first time that I was able to put a name to it, culture shock. Moving back from France to England, where I had lived for, I don't know, another 10 years, that was difficult. Because I had acculturated so well, changed my brain, speaking French, thinking French, living as a French woman, and then I came back to England. It was a mess. I was just quiet for quite a few weeks in order to adjust. From there, I moved to, I was in Germany with my husband, coming back to England, moving from Germany to the US with my husband, um, and from the US back to England. That was a big deal. From England coming back to the US. I had to think really. And each of those phases happened at different times of my life as a child, as a young adult, as a single professional woman, then as a married woman with a husband coming to the US for the first time, having a great time, being tourist, then learning to settle down and create a life. Then as a mother from the US back to England, and just, every single one of those phases requires something different
Hmm.
and throws up different challenges that you just learn whilst you're in it, because nobody tells you what's
Hmm.
going to happen beforehand. And so I'm trying to make people so fully aware of what you're going to encounter.
How much time did you spend in France? How many?
I was in France for under 2 years, just
Two.
under 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say the culture shock was more going to France or going or leaving France and going back to England? Which one felt like a bigger culture shock to you?
I think the biggest culture shock, and I still don't understand why, was leaving France, coming back to England.
And what
I
stood
moved.
out? Uh-huh.
Oh, the first few days I arrived back, I think it was day two, I turned the TV on and stuff came out that I didn't expect, I didn't anticipate. I heard English. I didn't hear French. And it's obvious that I would hear English. I'm in England. I grew up. I'm a Brit as well. But that really messed my mind out. And so I switched it off. And I realized there's something going on with me, and I just needed to stay quiet for a couple of weeks and slowly figure it out. Because when I moved to France, I moved with a couple of other people that I was studying with, and I lived with a family over there who very quickly became my family away from my family. The first time I had met people outside of my blood relatives who really loved me and cared about me as if they had given birth to me. And they made me birthday cakes. They would see that I'm protected and I'm all right, and made sure I learned how to speak French the way the Parisians do. That I started dressing like a Parisian, and there's this shift that takes place with a new language in order to speak it so proficiently for your profession, but also socially. All those little nuances of what you say when to who and all that sort of stuff. And so I had learned all of that. And that means English has to go, and everything about the way you structure your English sentences just has to go, because it doesn't work in French. And I did that for quite a while. And yeah, I loved it as well. That's part of the problem. I was having so much fun there.
Yeah. What did you love the most about French culture? Is there something that you really enjoyed?
Yes, I love that they value so vehemently the balance that human beings need in life. That at lunchtime, we leave our offices and we go off and we have lunch, or we go home and we take a nap. But we have lunch and we eat together. And the point is not about the food, the point is about the people you're eating with. It's community, it's connection, it's having conversations about politics, life, but it's the fact that you exist outside of your work. Work doesn't come with you. Work is just something you do that helps you to live. But life is much bigger than that. We sit, we have wine, we have good food, we treat ourselves well, we dress well, we take care of our bodies, we take care of everything. This is very, very important. The work, the job that you do, secondary or tertiary, it's down the list somewhere.
Why do you think that got lost in America or the UK or in the Western world of busyness? Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's built into humanity, that's built into our DNA, but somewhere along the way that got lost. And do you have any sense as to why that happened?
I wonder, gosh, that is such a very, very good question. How come we've lost that? Because we somehow along the way start thinking that money is everything, and I have to have more, and I must have more than the person next to me, and then I start competing with the person next to me instead of relating, conversing with, understanding the life story, the humanity of the person next to me. It started becoming very, I guess, individualistic. Me, what do I have? What can I drive? How big is the house I live in? To some degree, I think maybe everybody has that to some degree, but I don't know. I'm just wondering if that might be the reason. What do you think?
Oh, that was a fantastic answer. I don't know. I was just throwing it out there. Just so curious to
Yeah.
hear what you had to say. I mean, the follow up question would be, taking it one level deeper and asking what impact does that have on the person's psyche of lacking um, community and family and friends and like the ability to just sit and be within each other's company. You know what I mean? Like that has to just destroy you. It has to eat you from the inside out, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think it does begin with messing up your perspective of what's important in life. It makes you sad because then, if you're not really relating to other people first and foremost, then what are you doing with your life? You're just going to work, coming back home. You're on a hamster wheel, just treading this wheel round and round. We need variety in so many different ways. We need variety in our experiences and the people we interact with, because then we learn the different textures and tastes and understanding of life, and it helps us to see the world through somebody else's eyes, and it helps us to understand their life story. And when you understand somebody's life story, you learn so much. You gain wisdom, you gain new tools and tips of how you can live yours and solutions for yours, but also how you can be a part of their lives as
mhm.
well. And it just adds richness when we have that mindset that says, I'm going to take time. Work isn't everything. I'm going to sit with the person in front of me and we're going to talk about what's important to us. And whilst we're talking, we'll eat some nice food doing it as well.
Yeah. What what kind of a person do you think you would be, or what would you be doing right now in your life had you stayed in Vincent, in the Caribbean?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I really don't know. I, what sort of person would I be? Well, I guess I would have to look around the people. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that I would be on the beach all the time, but then you can have too much of a really, really lovely, beautiful, good thing. But that isn't real life. You've got to work. I don't know if I would have been somebody working in a school, teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. But it
That's
makes me
just
want to ask you, what would
oh,
life be like for you had you stayed um,
I
back in
don't
the US?
I don't. It's funny because I like. I swear that that seed of adventure, that seed of change, it just gets built into your DNA somehow, and I don't know why that's the case. And so, like, I feel like if I were in the same place that I grew up, or had never really grown as a person, I would either be miserable inside or just, ignorance is bliss. I guess it could have gone either way. Like maybe had you not known what else was out in the world, you can kind of just put your blinders on, and I don't know. I guess it's really like getting at the core of understanding somebody else's perspective, right? And yeah, uh, trying to understand what it's like. And it's all you're doing is projecting, out onto somebody else's eyes. But it's still, you can't get away from your own filter. You can't get away from your own eyes. So it's just an impossible question.
Ah, that's right. I guess so. But I'm fascinated by the life
Mhm.
that you've created down in Costa Rica. Are you still there? Have you frozen?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, the internet cut out there for a second, but no, I think it's just a combination of how things unfolded for us. There was never any like, hey, this is our intention. Like this is what our path is, and this is what it's gonna look like. And first, we're gonna live here and go there and that. It just kind of unfolded the way it unfolded, and we just kind of went with the vacuum, or like allowed things to flow the way they flow. Hmm.
Mm. And you've moved there with your family, you've got
Yeah,
young kids.
yeah.
How old are they?
They are 12 and 14.
Uh-huh. And how
Oh,
have they adjusted?
one has done really well. The other has struggled a little more, although it's really come a long ways in the past, I'd say 5, 6 months. So we've been here now about a year and a half. The first year was rough. There was definitely a low point. But then, to be honest, like my wife and I kind of said, okay, we need to address this. We need to figure out how we can help our 14-year-old daughter. And we got really intentional on, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and also intentional in uh, trying to be more present in terms of our daughter's headspace, and really try to get more involved in her daily swings or just mind state. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
That
But I'm intrigued because I wonder if, or rather, I wonder what made you move to Costa Rica and why, in particular, Costa Rica.
I think so. Before our kids were born, my wife and I served in the Peace Corps in El Salvador. So we spent 2 years in El Salvador, and that was after. Okay, so we both got our degrees in Minnesota. Went to college, and then worked a little bit, and then we said, okay, we're going to go to the Peace Corps. And then while we were in El Salvador, we said, I really like this this sense of rural living, a slower lifestyle, and we just kind of fell in love with the Central America. Like coming from Minnesota, especially, everybody, and probably in London as well, there's always a seasonal depression, right? Like everybody in December, January, February, like everybody kind of, you're not getting sun, and like, oh yeah, I'm depressed now because of the weather. And so when we were in El Salvador, like we didn't experience that. You actually got out into the sun, and the daily uh, sunrise and sunset is like 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and that's very consistent throughout the year, and that's not the
Yeah,
case in these northern climates. And so we kind of just fell in love with the weather. We fell in love with the people of Central America, and then at a point in our lives. So okay, so after El Salvador, we moved back to the States, and I started working at my parents' family farm. I went into the family business, and then after that experience kind of unfolded the way it did, we kind of hit this point in our lives where we kind of looked up and around. It's like, okay, what's next? and we really were just drawn back to Costa Rica. Like we wanted to build that seed into our kids' DNA as well, of travel, of living in other cultures, of learning about other cultures, about learning new languages, and so that's ultimately what drew us back, and we knew we didn't want to stay in Minnesota, and so when we were kind of looking around, like, well, where are we going to go, and we had the world as our options. Like Costa Rica was the one that just kind of bubbled to the surface. Yeah.
Wow. Because now I'm thinking, maybe we should go down there for a visit and see what
Yeah.
it's like.
Oh, it's
You know,
incredible. It's incredible. It's got so many different microcultures, microclimates. You've got the beach, you've got Manuel Antonio, which is like this huge national park. You've got the mountains where we live. We live in the Central Valley, so the weather is much cooler, more mild. And then you've got the Caribbean side, where it's a very we actually haven't been over there, but like Puerto Limon is, I know it's heavily influenced by the Caribbean culture. And so kind of all throughout Central America, there's just all these little different niches and areas and cultures and people. And yeah, like the beach vibe is totally its own thing. And then, but you certainly have gringo communities too, where gringos kind of congregate. And we're somewhere in between. We're kind of in the middle of all that. Mm-hmm.
beautiful. So the language, the kids are just adjusting. You're all having to adjust.
Yeah, my wife and I are relearning Spanish after having left Central America for over a decade, and then the kids, it's taking them about a year and a half. They're going to a bilingual school, so this is a school that's also trying to teach Costa Ricans English, but it's primarily targeted for Costa Rican kids. But so they're speaking Spanish, 80% of the time, and English 20% of the time. It's taken them a while, but it's coming. It's coming along.
Full
Yeah.
immersion. I love it. You've made me just you've whetted my appetite.
Nice. No,
For
it's
some
if yeah, I mean, if you ever want to visit Costa Rica, like, let us know. I could certainly put some bugs in your ear, and that's the thing about the visit is like you really have to dial in on what you want, because Costa Rica has so much to offer that you want to just get your vacation just right.
I'm seriously thinking about it now for a vacation
Oh,
with the
cool.
whole family.
Cool.
I am.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful country, and I've also fallen in love with the Costa Rican coffee world too, because the coffee down here is just incredible.
My husband would love that.
Awesome.
He loves his coffee.
Oh, that's cool.
Beautiful.
They have yeah, and if you go down the rabbit hole of like all the specialty varieties like geisha and sarchi, Via Sarchi is another one, Sarchi Mor. They have so many different hybrids, and then grown at different regions, and they all taste differently. So it's a rabbit hole that you can go down for
Oh,
decades.
lovely. Lovely. That sounds amazing. I don't drink coffee. I love the smell of it when my husband brews it and he does all this thing with the machine, like he's in a coffee shop.
Yep.
And I love the aroma.
Hmm.
Can't stand the taste of it. I love hot chocolate. My
Uh-huh.
daughter and I, we will drink hot chocolates and all the other stuff. Teas, I'm a tea fan,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I'm curious.
if you ever have the opportunity to try a geisha coffee grown over 1,700 meters, it's got to be grown in the high altitudes, and then roast a really fresh roast geisha. It will taste like a Earl Grey black tea. It's crazy. It is
Really?
wild. It is the wildest coffee you will ever taste.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I wonder if I can find it here.
It's quite possible you can. Just make sure, and if people are dealing with geisha variety, and if they're advertising it, they're going to know how to roast it. They're going to know how to handle it. But yeah, it's
All
good stuff.
right. So you're having a whale of a time, aren't you? You're having a good time.
It's an experience. Yes, I mean there's ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. Like, you can't relocate internationally without highs and lows.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, learning about the country, traveling the country, and just learning about the culture, because we get so much information through the girls when they come home from school too, just about different aspects of Costa Rican culture and the history, that it's just, I don't know, it's a great experience so far.
Every time, I keep thinking of all these questions because now I'm wondering, what about safety and healthcare? Are they issues, or you've got to
So
navigate?
healthcare is much cheaper here in we, I mean, you can go with the with the public healthcare system, but most of the time, like if you're coming from the States and used to the third world, you're not going to feel happy with that. So we buy private health insurance, and generally doctors are very quick to get in. That's not a big deal as long as you're looking at the private world. In terms of safety, we live in a gated community, but like by and large, like as long as you're not like, out late at night, or going to bars or doing stupid things, like you're not, if you're not putting yourself into these situations, uh, where you're going to create trouble, you're not going to find a problem. There's a bunch of petty crime in Costa Rica, just in terms of like where there's a lot of tourism, like high tourist areas. Somebody might break your windshield and grab your backpack or something. From That's never happened to us. And that's more for like people visiting that don't know what they're doing, and not very savvy travelers. Um, and it's usually like opportunistic crime like that. But in terms of like the types of kidnappings and stuff like that, we never hear anything like that
Okay,
anywhere.
that's,
Yeah. Hmm.
I think maybe 3 weeks in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 weeks, you could hit a lot. And if you're comfortable driving, then, you can rent a car. Driving in Costa Rica is its own little battle, but it's manageable. Hmm.
Well, I feel as though, well, if I can drive in France, particularly Paris, if I can
Yeah.
drive in Paris
Yeah.
and I can drive around the Caribbean islands, I think hopefully I might be okay. We might be okay,
I think you'd be
hopefully.
fine. I think you'd be fine. It's funny learning all the norms driving in a country like this, like what flashing lights. If you flash your lights at somebody, that's usually like you're letting them turn in front of you, like so that, and things like that. And then people turn their hazards on to say thank you. Like if you pull out in front of somebody, you'll pop your hazards on for a second, like stuff like that.
Oh, oh, how nice.
Uh-huh.
How nice. Do you think you'll come back to the US?
To live full time.
Uh-huh.
I mean, at this point, we don't have any plans to. I don't know how everything's going to unfold, but like we purchased a condominium here, and we have no intention of coming back anytime soon. That's for sure.
Ah, there you go. I love it.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, no, I certainly appreciate you telling your story, Yolanda, and it's been fascinating getting to know you and hear more about your perspective. And thank you so much for doing the show. This has been awesome.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I have loved chatting with you, and
Awesome.
thank you for allowing me to be so inquisitive about your life in Costa Rica because now I'm intrigued. But it's been fun talking about these memories with you.
Good.
I love your show. Thank you
Where
so much.
where can people find you online?
I am on Spotify and Apple. It's something that I've just started taking really seriously. The podcast that I do
Hmm.
is now called The Places We Call Home. And because it's just assessing, where we feel we belong. Sometimes we carry belonging with us, and sometimes it's literally a spot where we've built new memories or where our ancestors are buried. It means something different to so many of us, but I just love having these conversations, sharing wisdom, sharing tips, sharing tools, just so that for the expat women, men out there who are thinking about traveling or have just recently landed, can just start doing so in a meaningful way, but without starting from scratch.
Hmm.
That's the idea.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
Thank you so much, Jake. You enjoy the rest of your day today.
Hey, thanks for joining us. If you want to find out more about us and our mission, check out brilliantlifejourney.com.